Hey, I'm Lurpus. I played Counter-Strike for a living for 8 years. I've been on the desk for some of the biggest events for 5 years. I know nothing about Counter-Strike, but then again, neither does Thorin. Welcome to his YouTube channel.
The title of this video is a reference to the classic English proverb, a fool and his money are soon parted. So in this particular case, it's a fool and his market value, the value that a player has to the overall market of teams who might want him, might be interested in signing with him, equivalent players, and therefore what value he has that he can take, uses leverage with his team, uses leverage with other teams to sign and get the best deal for himself. Due to my involvement with Flashpoint, even though my title is creative director, I'm supposed to be working with the atmosphere, the tone, shoulder content, who we hire as broadcast talent. I'm not in any way a general manager for any of these teams. I'm in no way involved in any of that stuff with the partner teams. Basically, I've taken it upon myself to try and funnel as many tips for players they could sign, literal information, players who've reached out to me. And so I've been going out there to these GMs, to the people who own these orgs, and I've been recommending them pros who either publicly have said, I'm available, I want to get back in the game, or I'm top player, I'm free agent now, or I'm going to just step back and I'd like to play for someone else. Or privately, sometimes they come to me and they say, oh, any of the Flashpoint teams will be interested in me, or did you know I'd be interested in living in America if possible? So whoever's available, sometimes I reach out to them and say, when does your contract end? Or would you be interested in moving to the US? Or would you like to be in a EU Flashpoint team? Is there any interest in being in one of these top teams? They've got a lot of money. When this happens and I'm talking to these players, it's amazing how many times I'm running into the same problem I had with young pros and even some top level players that existed years ago, and they just haven't leveled up. They don't understand the meta game of how to get their market value and get the best deal for themselves. It was always a problem anyway, but it's exacerbated now in an era when there's even more money and funding and possibility available that some of them just simply are unaware of. To put it very simply, pros right now, by and large, do not understand the very premise of testing the market. They think testing the market is you just want to leave your team and you just go and talk to another team you want to join, you agree to a number, and that's it. That's what they think the market is. That's what they think market value is. So as a result, some of these guys, and most of them in fact, are making huge, potentially career-defining, depending on how old you are, maybe life-defining decisions without giving it any real thought or without understanding what even their circumstances and what's on offer to them is. They don't test the market. What happens is, this is a classic example that spurred me to make this video. I had this many times, is I'll message a player, maybe I'm friends with, maybe I just know as an acquaintance, maybe I just know as a pro in the scene, and I'll say to him something like, isn't it true your contract ends soon? Or when does your contract end? Or, you know, what are your plans for the future? You know, we can do this off the record if you want. No one ever has to know. I'm just interested in myself. Maybe I can help you out in some way, even if that's getting a better deal with your current squad. The pro then tells me, right, well, I plan to re-sign with my current team. Or, you know what, I have just re-signed with my current team. Now, the reasons why they do that are they think they're on a good team right now. They like the organization they play for. Maybe they like their teammates at the moment. Maybe they think the salary's good enough, or the terms of the deal that they signed are good enough based on what they understand. But this is the problem. I don't have an issue with them going and signing with that team again, even if I think it's a worse deal for them or I think it's a worse team. That's fine. I'm not here to tell them what to do for their life. I never do that. I'll just offer possibilities. But they can't be sure that they got the best deal from their team without finding out what the rest of the interest in the scene is, what other offers there might have been, what teams they don't even know would be interested. Maybe bigger, maybe smaller, maybe crazy new squad that comes in with millions of dollars from China wants to make a new squad. There's a million options they might not know. If they were to go and at least listen to these teams, they can still go back to their original team with the numbers and the value that they understand now, and they can show their team their market value, show there's interest in them, just get a better deal. Might not even have to mention it, just ask for a higher number. In that scenario, you have now mastered one of the secrets of negotiation, which is that if you're not ultimately willing to walk away and say no, you will never get the best deal for yourself. Because once your opponent or the other person in the negotiation figures that out, they will always have a leverage pressure point where they can min-max themselves and know at the end of the deal you'll probably sign it. So if you know another big team wants you, a better team wants you, someone wants you for more money or with better teammates, now you can go back to your org who you want to sign with and be confident that, hey, I can really approach this and I can see if they really want me. I can see if they're willing to pay the value for me. I can see what actually those offers are like versus what maybe now my new org will offer. Maybe I get an even better deal. It's exactly what I wanted. So There's also the aspect that when you go back to your org, maybe they're not even willing to pay as much as this other offer, but it's another offer you don't really want. So you know what? Now you can negotiate something else. Maybe now you can negotiate that you get some say in one of the next players they pick up, or you know of a young player or a teammate you've had in the past who you'd like them to at least inquire about. You can get some sort of extra consideration because you have leverage you didn't have before. You can, even if you're really cynical, I personally wouldn't do this, but you can do this. You can just keep going backwards and forwards between the two orgs, like a certain Nicken and Liehorn basically did between ESL and Flashpoint. And you can just take one number to one and say they're willing to pay this and give me this. Then you go to the other one, they go, well, we'll match it or we'll beat it. And it's like an auction. You keep going, and at the end you go to the highest bidder, and the joke is if you manipulate them correctly in that kind of a move, or effectively, you might end up with the original person you were going to sign with anyway just paying twice as much for you, even though actually no one else ever had to pay any money, but their value in terms of what they think you're worth, it's now gone enormously up. They've got no bidding war, and they get horny to win the bidding war, and then you're the one who benefits from that. So there are huge organizations in Flashpoint. Some of the most well-funded organizations in all of esports, but particularly CSGO, are in Flashpoint now. People who think, but the top 10 teams are all over in EPL, Thorin. Yes, some of those orgs are tiny. Some of them are in massive financial trouble. Some of them have liquidity issues paying their payroll right now to players. Some of them are asking people to take pay cuts within their orgs. Some of them are telling players, forget any other transfers for this year. We're just going to have to stick with what we've got. Or if we get someone new, it's going to have to be someone who's just a gamble, who doesn't have any buyout and has a very low salary. Like, some of these orgs are huge. And so even if you look at their team and they don't have a top team right now, or they've never been in Counter-Strike before, some of them can pay, literally, if you convince them you're the right player in the team, they can pay the highest salary in the entire world in esports, in CSGO rather. Obviously not compared to like Chinese League of Legends or whatever. They can pay huge buyouts to sign some of these players. My point here is, this transitions to another element. Until you've gone and tested the market and listened to people and heard what they want and what they think about you, there are possibilities that exist that you don't know yet. There are unknown knowables. You don't know them yet, but you could. If you actually just put in, literally, we're talking a few hours a week, you could find these things out. I mean, I'll give you an example of something that happened very recently that also made me think about this video. There was a player in the top 10 team in the world who didn't know that there are Flashpoint teams and other orgs out there, even ones that are in EPL, that really would want him as a player, actually. Like, they think he's much better than other people do, than the public do, than maybe even his team do. And they would consider him such a coup to sign. They would not only sign him for perhaps the highest salary or among the highest salary in the world, way above the level he's at now, but they might even build a team around him. They might give him some say in who joins, what coaching staff they have, what style of player they play. They might commit to him long term. They might give him a massive salary in a 3 or 4 year contract. These teams will be willing to do a lot. A good example would be, think of Blame F's situation in Complexity now. He went from being in Heroic, a team that was like, it was okay, it was a top 20 team, wasn't getting massive salary, didn't have massive career potential at that point in time. He went to Complexity, where it was revealed by a journalist he was supposedly on like $25,000 a month salary. This is a guy where they really committed to him. It's working out like a motherfucker so far. And if he hadn't have listened to those meetings, if he thought, well, I want to stay in Denmark or at least Europe and just Nordic region in general, and I don't know Complexity is shit, or like, have they ever done anything in CSGO? Like, if he'd have done all that sort of stuff, then he'd have never known that $25,000 was available. Maybe he signs for $15,000, $12,000, $8,000 with someone. Maybe he signs for $8,000 with a much better team of players, but as a result, he thinks, well, that's just what I've got to do to get it. He doesn't know his market value in that scenario. But this guy went out there, he had a cup of coffee with Jason Lake, and what do you know? He ended up being one of the highest paid players in the world, despite the fact I don't know anyone who has him in the top 10 players in the world. Admittedly, once we go offline, he's got a chance maybe to do something like that. So without the knowledge of who wants you, how much they want you, and what they can offer you, how can you, in good conscience, make a decision for yourself that you know is the right one for you and the right one for your career? As I said before, that phrase is a very key one I want you to remember if you're a pro. At least have a cup of coffee, as they say in business. As in, just talk to these teams. Just have a chat with them. You're not committing to anything when you do that. You don't have to sign with them after that. You can just say, it was nice having a chat, but I've decided to go a different route on that. Thanks, but no thanks. See you in another lifetime. Like, you can do whatever you want, but at least hear them out. Like, talk to the general manager of the other organisation. Talk to the coach if you want to find out what sort of vision he has for coaching the team. Talk to the organisation, see how committed they are to Counter-Strike, to the leagues they play in, to the future, to wanting to pay more salaries, or whether they want to min-max right now. Outline your thinking, give them some of your plans, see if what they say aligns with your vision. Maybe you'll find that there's a team you never even anticipated would be a good fit for you. Actually, they think just like you, and they're about to build an enormous team with loads of top players, and you could be a part of that and jump up 2 or 3 levels even. Then for the teams and organisations, they have their own issues here. Like the amount of them that I'm contacting, telling them this player's available, this coach is available, this superstar player, if you pay the buyout, can come to your team, it can make you a lot better. They go, we're all right, thanks, Thorin. We've got a good enough team. Right, there's no such thing as a good enough team, not especially in the current climate where you lose millions to having a top Counter-Strike team. Like, you need to have the best team, and then you need to market them, and then you need to secure monetization options through the leagues and tournaments that you play in. So the idea of having just a good enough team, that's a loser's mentality. So these people also sometimes aren't having the cup of coffee. I told them this guy's available, this coach is available, this top player, at least showing some interest. They're like, you know what, nah, I don't think he would join, or I don't know if he'd be the right player. They don't even sit down and have the cup of coffee. They don't sit down and listen to the guy. They don't probe him a little bit to see what he's made of. They don't discuss with him his vision of the game, or if he knows other players that they think might be a good fit. They might find out if they did, there are upgrades or better options out there that are obvious that would even love to join. Maybe they don't even sign the player now or work with the player now, but they at least now have in the back of their mind, one day I'll see where that guy goes, actually. I'll follow his career with much interest, as Palpatine said. And then maybe I scoop him up down the line, or we reconnect a year from now. We've already laid the groundwork. Maybe now he knows what we're about. We know what he's about. He's shown himself. We've shown ourselves. And then we do a great deal and it all makes solid sense. I told teams this years ago in a video, but people just don't do it. You go out there, you make a short list of the top 10, top 20, top 30, and then some randoms that you'd like, right? You do a really enhanced scouting approach. And then what you do is you go to all those players and you just ask them all privately, when does your contract end? Or you ask them, would you potentially be interested in just having a quick conversation about whether one day you might want to join our team? If you want, it's a big superstar player. I'd even build a whole pitch around it like they do when they want to sign a massive star in the NBA or the NFL. There's still practically nobody doing that, though. There's still people just reaching out through coaches or other players, or one org owner just happens to be a little bit proactive and reaches to a couple of people. But generally, the infrastructure for this stuff isn't there. Some of the GMs are doing a fucking terrible job. Really, really, they are some of the worst in the entire industry at their role. They're just guys where I'll be introduced to these people and I'll be like, who the fuck is this? Or even worse, I'll be like, you know this guy failed like 2 or 3 times before. Like, why have you hired him for your... Like, this is unbelievable in all the squads around the world, how bad that role is right now, because understandably it hasn't been a high-paid role. There's no real metric to check competence, since the owners themselves don't often know how good these players are. So that's a role in itself. I'll probably do a different video. That must improve. And bad orgs must be exposed for that fact that it's their GMs fucking up some of this stuff. But that'll be something I'll put some focus on to later. This video was kindly supported by Alexander Rao, Dean Tanglis, Emanuel Särnbratt, JDubs, NateDOhDoubleG, the Puyallup Tribe, Tobias Bernasconi, Xinged, and a special thanks always goes out to Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my shows? Maybe ask a question in my monthly video AMA? Do you want teasers? Who are the guests on my next content? Maybe you want to take part in one of those donated discussions with me where we go really deep into the weeds. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today in the description box link below.